Captain stood at the edge of the crimson desert and looked at the endless waves of red sand stretching to the horizon. The wind was hot and dry, and it pushed against his suit with constant pressure. Behind him, his small team of 4 people prepared their equipment for another day of exploration on Prime. Had been exploring strange worlds for 15 years. He knew the risks and the rewards, but nothing he had experienced before prepared him for what he was about to find. The expedition was supposed to be routine. The company that hired wanted information about the ruins buried under the sand. They believed the ruins contained ancient technology or valuable metals. Did not care much about profit. He cared about discovery. He wanted to know what had happened to the civilizations that built these structures thousands of years ago. Lisa Hunt was lead engineer. She was smart and careful with equipment. She never took unnecessary risks. Today, she walked beside with a scanner in her hands. The scanner detected energy sources and metal deposits beneath the sand. "There is something big down there," Lisa said, pointing her scanner toward a spot 3 kilometers away. "The energy reading is very strong, much stronger than anything we have seen on this world before." Nodded. "How deep?" "Maybe 50 meters down. Whatever it is, it has been buried for a long time." The team packed their equipment into a transport vehicle and drove across the hot sand. The desert around them was empty and silent except for the sound of the vehicle's engine. No plants grew here. No animals moved through the landscape. The world felt dead and forgotten. After 2 hours of driving, they arrived at the location. Lisa deployed her equipment and began digging. The sand fell away quickly, revealing something underneath. It was smooth and clear like glass, but it was not glass. It was something harder and more complex. It was crystal of some kind, cut into geometric shapes that did not look natural. "This is artificial," Lisa said. "Someone built this." The team dug deeper. The crystal structure became larger and more detailed. It was the side of a massive building. After 6 hours of work, they found an entrance. The crystal wall had a hole in it perfectly sized for a person to walk through. Inside, the air was cool and dry. It smelled old. Turned on his flashlight and stepped inside. The interior was dark and silent. The light from his flashlight showed walls of crystal that seemed to glow faintly from within. The light reflected off every surface, creating patterns of blue and white that hurt his eyes a little. He moved carefully, listening to the sound of his own breathing inside his helmet. The passage went down and deeper into the earth. The team followed, each person focused and quiet. The air was getting colder as they descended. After 30 minutes of walking, the passage opened into a large chamber. Stopped and stared. In the center of the chamber, a woman sat on the ground. Her skin was covered in scales that shimmered like silver metal in the light from his flashlight. Her face was beautiful but strange. Her eyes were large and bright yellow. Her back had 2 massive shapes folded against her body, wings. Her arms and legs were bound with thick chains made of a dark metal. The chains glowed with a painful red light. She did not move when they entered. Approached slowly. He could see that she was breathing but barely. Her chest moved up and down very slowly. Her eyes tracked his movement, following him as he walked closer. She was alive but trapped in something like sleep. "What is this?" asked David, another member of the team. His voice was scared and uncertain. Did not answer. He was trying to understand what he was looking at. The woman was not human. The wings, the scales, the yellow eyes, the strange beauty of her face, none of it was human. She was something else, something powerful. "Hello," said, speaking slowly. "Can you understand me?" The woman's eyes moved. They focused on his face. Her mouth opened and she tried to speak. No sound came out. She tried again. This time a single word emerged from her throat, broken and weak. "Help." Made a decision. His training told him to leave this place and report what they found to the company. Let the professionals handle it. But had always believed that orders did not matter when someone was in pain. Someone was suffering and they had found them. That meant they had to help. "What are the chains?" he asked Lisa. Lisa scanned the chains with her equipment. "Some kind of energy restraint. It is draining power from her, I think, slowly pulling energy out of her body and using it to power something, maybe power the facility." "Can you remove them?" Lisa looked at him. "You know what this means. Once we free her, we cannot control her. We have no idea what she is capable of." Looked at the woman again. She was looking at him with eyes that showed hope and fear at the same time. "She is a prisoner," he said. "Help me remove the chains." Lisa worked for 40 minutes. She used her tools to disconnect the chains from the power source. The red glow in the chains slowly faded. The woman's breathing became deeper and stronger. Finally, the chains fell away from her body. The woman on the ground began to glow. A light came from inside her body, pushing outward. Her skin became brighter. Her eyes shone like yellow stars. When the light faded, she was different, stronger, more alive. She stood up on unsteady legs and looked at. "You freed me," she said. Her voice was clear now, though it had an unusual accent that could not place. "I have been in chains for 437 years. I thought I would never be free again." She looked down at her hands and moved her fingers. She folded and unfolded her wings. She took a long breath. "I am," she said. "I was an ambassador. I was captured during the Great War. They put me in this place to drain my life and power their settlements. And now you have freed me. Why did you do this? You do not know me. I could be dangerous." Did not look away from her eyes. "Because you needed help, that is reason enough." Looked at him for a long time, then she nodded slowly. "You are human. I have read about your kind in the old records. You are young as a species. You should not be here. But you are here and you have shown kindness to a stranger. That is something that would never do." She walked toward, and he did not move away. "I will need your help to understand this new time," she said. "Will you give me shelter on your ship?" Reached out his hand, took it with her clawed fingers gently. "Yes," he said, "we will help you." The ship hummed with the quiet sounds of engines and life support systems as it traveled back toward human space. Sat in the medical chamber while the ship's doctor, Sarah Williams, ran every test available. The tests showed things that should not be possible. His body temperature was 105 degrees. Her blood was not red but silver. Her bones were denser than any material science had recorded. Her heart beat only once every 15 seconds, and somehow this was normal for her. "You are unlike anything in our medical database," Sarah said, not unkindly. Smiled. "I am sure I am. Your species has not encountered beings like me before, not in your recent history anyway." Sat in the observation room, watching through the clear glass. He had questions, many questions, had been in chains for 437 years. That was a number could not really understand. The United Earth Exploration Company had only existed for 200 years. Humanity had only been in space for 100 years. 437 years stretched back to a time when humans had not even invented electricity. After the medical examination was complete, asked to join him in the ship's conference room. The room was small but comfortable. A table and chairs. A window that looked out onto the stars. Looked at the stars for a long time before she sat down. "I have not seen the stars like this in more than 4 centuries, she said. "Always from a small window in the chamber, always behind chains, always watching civilizations rise and fall." "Tell me about this," said. "Tell me what happened to you." Took a moment before speaking. When she began, her voice was steady but sad. "Long ago, when your species was not yet born, there was a great galactic civilization. It was called the Confederation. We were many species, but we shared one goal. We believed that the strong should protect the weak. We believed that knowledge was meant to be shared, not hidden. We believed that power was not meant to control others, but to serve them." She paused and looked at her hands. They were part of the Confederation at first. They seemed like any other species, but they were different. They believed that the galaxy should have one ruler, one order. They believed that power should be absolute. Over 2,000 years, they worked to gain control. They made alliances and broke them. They made promises and hid the truth. They created propaganda that convinced younger species that without everything would fall into chaos. "They took over," said. "They did through war and betrayal and lies. The Confederation fought them, but we were divided. Some of us trusted the too long. By the time we understood the truth, they were too strong. The Confederation was destroyed. Most of my people were killed. Some of us escaped. I was captured during the final battle." Was quiet for a moment. "How many years ago was this?" 2,347 years ago. I have counted every year in my chains." Absorbed this information. 2,000 years. They had been in power for 2,000 years. That meant they controlled everything that the human race had ever learned about the galaxy. Everything that history books said was true might be a lie. "What is the real goal?" asked. "Control," said simply. "They maintain order by making sure no other species becomes too strong. They teach younger species to be afraid of each other. They control what information is shared." They tell every new species that they are the only thing stopping chaos and war, and the species believe them because they have no way to know the truth. What about humans? What do they tell humans? They tell you that you are young and primitive. They tell you to listen to their guidance. They tell you to buy their technology and follow their rules. They tell you that without them, your species would not survive. They tell you lies to keep you small and obedient. Stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the stars moved slowly as the ship traveled through space. He thought about everything he had learned in his life. He thought about the history books. He thought about the laws that humans followed. He thought about the wars that humans were told to avoid. "Why are you telling me this?" he asked. "Why not keep this to yourself?" Stood and joined him at the window. "Because you freed me when you did not have to. Because you showed kindness to a stranger. Because your species is young and has not yet been completely controlled. You still have the ability to choose what is true and what is false. I am telling you this because I want to give you a chance to decide your own future." "If we learn the truth, they will try to stop us," said. "Yes, they will. I am dangerous to them now. The moment they learn that I am free, they will come for me. They will come for you as well." Turned to face her. "Then we need to tell people what you have told me. We need to share the truth. They will call you liars. They will tell the galaxy that I am a threat, a dangerous creature. They will show the galaxy weapons and soldiers. They will make people afraid of you and of me." "Maybe," said, "but we have to try. If we stay silent, nothing changes. If we tell the truth, at least people will have a choice." Looked at him with those bright yellow eyes. In them saw something he did not expect. He saw hope. She had been in chains for over 400 years, watching the galaxy from a prison, and now, in this moment, on a small human ship, she saw hope. "You understand what this means," she said. "Once we speak, once we share the truth, there is no going back. They will not accept failure. They will not accept losing their power." Nodded, he understood perfectly. He was about to set events in motion that would affect billions of people across the galaxy. The weight of this decision pressed down on him like gravity. But he also understood something else. The truth mattered. Freedom mattered. The right to choose mattered. "Then we tell the truth," he said, "and we let the galaxy decide what happens next." Reached out and placed her clawed hand on his shoulder. It was a gesture of trust and understanding. The broadcast began at midnight on a Tuesday. Stood in front of the communication array aboard the human vessel, her silver scales reflecting the pale blue light of the screens. Her wings stretched wide as she prepared to send her message across the galaxy. Watched from the control room, his hands trembling slightly. There was no way to stop what was about to happen. There was only the truth. "Are you ready?" asked through the communication system. Closed her eyes. "I have been ready for 437 years, she said. "I am ready now." She opened her mouth, and her voice poured out into the cosmic networks that connected the galactic civilization. Her voice was clear and strong. It carried weight and truth in every word. "My name is, and I am the last surviving ambassador of the Confederation. I have been imprisoned by the Empire for 2,347 years. I have been held in chains designed to drain my life force and power their settlements. I am speaking to you today to tell you a truth that they have hidden for two. They are not your protectors. They are your oppressors." The message continued for 30 minutes, spoke about the history of the galaxy before the. She spoke about the Confederation and the philosophy of shared knowledge and mutual protection. She explained how they had deceived younger species into thinking they needed protection. She revealed documents and recordings that had been preserved in her memory. Some of these records showed military attacks against peaceful civilizations. Other records showed the systematic destruction of libraries and historical archives that contained the truth. Then did something remarkable. She shared the coordinates of hidden digital vaults that contained the complete history of the galaxy. The vaults had been sealed away by the Confederation before their fall, preserved in case someone would eventually find them. She provided the encryption keys. Anyone with basic technology could now access the truth. "To every species listening to this message," said, "you have the right to know your own history. You have the right to make your own choices. You have the right to freedom. They will tell you that I am a liar and a threat. They will tell you to fear me. But ask yourselves this: why would they hide the truth for so long if the truth did not matter? I am offering you knowledge. What you do with that knowledge is your choice." The broadcast ended. For approximately 3 seconds, there was silence across the galaxy. Then everything changed. The message reached billions of beings across 143 inhabited worlds. Some listened with skepticism. Some listened with anger. Some listened with hope. But everyone listened. The first response came from the species, a group of beings that lived on 7 different planets. They had been under control for 800 years. Their government had been appointed by their history had been rewritten by when they accessed the hidden vaults and saw the truth about their own civilization, they erupted. Peaceful protests began in 12 cities. By the next day, the representatives had been removed from power. They were not alone. A warrior species that had been forced into the military began asking questions about the wars they had fought. The scientific people gained access to historical records that showed they had stolen their technological innovations and claimed the innovations as their own. An artistic culture learned that their most treasured artworks had been created before the era. They had been taught to believe they were incapable of creativity. Now they understood the truth. Protests spread across the galaxy like fire. They were not violent at first. They were peaceful demonstrations. Billions of beings marched in streets and plazas demanding answers from their rulers. They demanded access to the hidden vaults. They demanded the right to learn their true history. The government responded with their traditional strategy. They released propaganda videos calling a liar and a dangerous creature. They claimed that the hidden records were forgeries. They said that the Confederation had been evil and destructive. They warned that without control, the galaxy would fall into war and chaos. But the propaganda did not work as well as it had in the past, because now billions of people had access to the actual evidence. Now they could see the truth with their own eyes. Now they could make informed decisions. Became a symbol of liberation. On thousands of worlds, her image was printed on signs and banners. Artists created sculptures of her. Musicians wrote songs about her. Young beings grew up listening to stories about the dragon woman who had been brave enough to speak the truth. They realized that they could not suppress the truth through propaganda alone. They began to make threats. They said they would use military force to maintain order. They said that any species that continued to support would face severe consequences. The threats backfired. Instead of frightening people into obedience, the threats made people angry. More species declared their independence from rule. Some formed their own governments. Others joined together to create new alliances based on cooperation rather than control. And his team watched from their vessel as the galaxy transformed. They listened to thousands of broadcasts from species they had never heard of before. They heard stories of hope and determination. They heard stories of people choosing freedom over safety. 3 weeks after its broadcast, a delegation of representatives from 17 different species arrived at the human vessel. They came to thank and to offer their support. They came to meet. They wanted to know if there was a way to unite the galaxy under new principles. Not the principles of control, but the principles of the old Confederation. One representative, a being named from the species, spoke directly to in the conference room. Your species could have stayed silent, said. You could have kept secret, you could have protected your own interests. But you chose to share the truth. Now we must ask you something. Will humans join us in building something new? Will you help us create a galactic civilization based on freedom and justice instead of control? Looked at, she nodded, giving him permission to speak for both of them. We will, said. We will help in any way we can. Reached out his 3-fingered hand and shook it. It was a small gesture, but it meant everything. Humanity was no longer a young species isolated in the corner of the galaxy. They were now part of something larger. They were part of a movement to reshape the entire galactic civilization. But the government was not finished fighting. They had controlled the galaxy for 2,000 years. They would not surrender without a struggle. In the days and weeks to come would need to prepare for war. The forces of freedom would have to face the forces of control. Outer Station 7 had been built by humans 50 years ago as a research and trading post. It was a circular structure with 5 levels, capable of housing 10,000 people. Now it held twice that many. Species from across the galaxy had gathered here, drawn by hope and the promise of a new beginning, had chosen it as her sanctuary, had chosen it as the place where humans would make their stand. The fleet arrived on a Wednesday morning. 112 warships surrounded the station. Their weapons were pointed at the civilians below. Their communications channels sent a single message: surrender or everyone dies. Stood in the control room and watched the ships on the radar screen. His hands were steady, but his heart was racing. Around him, other humans and beings from allied species worked at various stations. Some coordinated defense systems. Some prepared shelters for civilians. Some controlled the broadcast equipment. "They are demanding a response," someone said. "Keyed the communication system. This is Captain of the Earth Exploration Service. We do not have as a prisoner. She is here because she chose to come here. We do not control her. No one controls her. If you want to speak with her, you can do so. But you should know that we will not surrender her to be imprisoned again." The response came within seconds. "This is command. You will deliver the dragon woman within 1 hour, or we will attack your station and kill everyone inside." Turned to look at the camera that was broadcasting to the galaxy. Billions of beings were watching this moment. He spoke directly into the camera. "We are broadcasting this message so that every species can see what they truly are. They do not offer protection. They offer threats. They do not offer peace. They offer violence. In 1 hour, they will attack this station. They will kill innocent people, and I want the galaxy to know exactly why." He ended the broadcast, entered the control room 20 minutes before the deadline. She was not wearing armor or weapons. She simply walked in and stood beside. "I am sorry," said. "I have brought this upon your head." "No," said. "I brought this upon myself when I chose to speak the truth. This is not your burden. This is mine. Let me let me protect you." "We protect each other," said. "That is what freedom means." At exactly 1 hour, the fleet began to attack. The station's defense systems responded immediately. Energy shields flared to life, protecting the structure from the worst of the bombardment. Explosions lit up the space around the station, but the outer hull held. They had expected an easy victory. They had not expected humans and their allies to have prepared so thoroughly. But the station could not hold forever. The weapons were powerful, and there were so many of them. The shields were growing weaker. A breach would eventually occur. That is when did something that no one had expected. She went outside. There was a ship docked at the station, took it and flew directly toward the nearest warship. The ship was small and unarmored, but herself was not defenseless. As she approached the vessel, her body began to glow. The light was brilliant, like looking at the sun. Then she stopped the ship and opened the airlock. She flew through space toward the warship. The ship's weapons tracked her, but they could not seem to hit her. Her movement was too fast, too unpredictable. She reached the warship and landed on its hull. Then she simply tore through the metal with her claws. She entered the ship. From the station, watched on the radar and camera feeds. What he saw made his breath catch. Was inside the warship. There was a battle taking place. Soldiers were firing weapons at her, but the weapons did not seem to slow her down. She moved like water flowing around the attacks. She struck with precision and power. But she did not kill. When she defeated a soldier, she left them alive. Some were knocked unconscious. Some were trapped in sections of the ship that she sealed. She was fighting with a restraint that seemed impossible given her power. 12 minutes later, the warship went silent. Its weapons stopped firing. Its communications went dead, had taken control of the vessel. The broadcast showed what happened next, had ensured that cameras followed every movement. The galaxy watched as went to the command deck. There, she found the ship's captain. Instead of killing him, she held out her hand. "You are a soldier," said, her voice clear through the broadcast. "You follow orders because you believe you must, but I am offering you a choice. You can continue to fight for an empire that lies to you and uses you, or you can help me build something new, something where beings choose what they believe instead of being told what to believe. What will you choose?" The captain looked at her. He looked at his hands. He looked at his soldiers who had been defeated by one being and yet were still alive. Slowly, he reached out and took her hand. "I will choose change," he said. That moment was broadcast to every world in the galaxy. It was more powerful than any weapon. It showed that even soldiers who had been indoctrinated for their entire lives could choose a different path. It showed that violence was not the only answer. It showed that transformation was possible. Other officers began to see what was happening. They began to have doubts. They began to ask questions. Some of them ordered their ships to stand down. Others continued the attack, but with less conviction. The discipline of the fleet began to crumble. On Prime, of the Empire, something else was happening. Citizens had watched the broadcasts. They had seen the truth about their government's lies. They had seen that the military was not invincible. They had seen a choice being offered. On the streets of the capital city, millions of people began to protest. The High Council met in emergency session. They were facing collapse on two fronts. The military was losing its discipline. The people were demanding change. Some council members wanted to continue fighting. Others wanted to surrender. Made a broadcast directly to the High Council. "I do not want to conquer your world," she said. "I do not want to rule your people. I want only one thing. I want you to face justice for the crimes you have committed. I want you to step down and allow your people to choose their own government. I am giving you this choice because I believe in transformation. I believe that even those who have done terrible things can change, but you must choose to change." The broadcast ended. The council fractured. 3 members immediately announced their resignation and called for trials. 2 members committed suicide rather than face judgment. 4 members tried to escape the planet. Only 2 members stood firm and declared they would fight to the death for the Empire. But the Empire was already crumbling. Without the support of the High Council or the people, the military had no reason to continue fighting. Commanders began to negotiate surrender. Ships powered down their weapons. The attack on Outer Station 7 ended, not with a clear victory, but with the dissolution of the enemy. The Empire, which had ruled the galaxy for 2,000 years, fell apart in a matter of weeks. But victory was not simple. Many soldiers did not want to believe that their government had lied to them. Some remained loyal to the old empire and would cause problems in the future. Millions of people across the galaxy had to deal with the shock of learning that everything they had been taught was false. Stood with on the observation deck of Outer Station 7 and looked out at the space where the fleet had been. The warships were still there, but they were no longer enemies. They were becoming something new. 1 year had passed since the fall of the Empire. The changes were everywhere and nowhere at the same time. The old power structures were gone, but new structures were still forming. The old lies had been exposed, but many beings were still trying to understand what was true. The galaxy was in transition, and no one was certain where it would lead. The celebration took place on Minor, a world that they had used for mining. The landscape was with extraction pits and industrial equipment. It was a place of suffering and exploitation. Now it had been chosen as the location for the first galactic gathering under the new Confederation. Beings from 163 worlds gathered on Minor. They came to celebrate freedom. They came to participate in building a new government. They came to remember what had been lost and to imagine what could be gained. Walked beside through the gathering, she no longer looked out of place. Other beings who had been freed from control were becoming visible. A group of dragonkin, distant cousins of, had survived hidden in remote regions of the galaxy. A species of ancient beings called they had been in voluntary exile, refusing to acknowledge the government's legitimacy. They were all coming out of hiding and reclaiming their place in galactic civilization. "You have changed things," said to as they walked. "We have changed things," she corrected him. A human captain who chose conscience over caution, a team that believed that helping a stranger was more important than following orders. That is what changed things. I provided the information, but humans provided the courage. The celebration lasted for 3 days. On the first day, leaders from across the galaxy met to discuss the structure of the new Confederation. They had to decide how to make decisions. Who would have power? How would power be used? How could they ensure that the new Confederation did not become the same as the old one? These were difficult questions, and they did not have easy answers. Some species believed that government should be strong and centralized. Others believed that power should be distributed among many groups. Some believed that the Confederation should have a supreme leader. Others believed that no single being should have that much authority. Was appointed as one of the representatives for humanity. It was a position he had not sought, but one that had been given to him because beings across the galaxy understood that humans had made the difficult choice to stand for truth when it would have been easier to stay silent. "What do you think the new government should look like?" asked the representative one night during a break in the negotiations. Thought about the question carefully. "I think it should be built so that power can never be concentrated in the hands of a few again. I think it should be built so that the voices of younger species are heard alongside the voices of older species. I think it should be built so that truth matters more than control. And I think it should be built so that any being, no matter how small or weak, has the right to speak and be heard." "That sounds like democracy," said. "It does," agreed. "Humans have had democracy in various forms for thousands of years. We have failed at it many times, but we have always tried again. Maybe the galaxy can do better than we did. Maybe we can learn from our mistakes." By the third day, a basic structure had been agreed upon. The Confederation would be governed by a parliament with representatives from each species and world. No single being would have supreme power. All decisions would be made through deliberation and voting. Knowledge and historical records would be preserved and shared freely. No government would be allowed to rewrite history or suppress information. It was not perfect. There were still disagreements and compromises, but it was built on principles that seemed right. On the final night of the celebration, there was a ceremony to honor those who had been lost during the struggle against the millions had died during the wars and uprisings. Billions had suffered under rule. The ceremony acknowledged this suffering, stood in the center of the gathered beings and spoke. I was imprisoned for 437 years, she said. I watched the galaxy through a small window. I saw civilizations rise and fall. I saw them grow stronger and more entrenched. I thought my suffering was meaningless. I thought my imprisonment served no purpose, but I was wrong. My suffering led me to a place where I found beings who chose to be brave. My imprisonment led me to meet humans who understood that freedom is worth fighting for. Every being who suffered under thee is here today. You are free, and your freedom came not because one being defeated an empire, but because billions of beings chose to stand together for something better. Stood beside as she spoke. Around them, beings from every known species stood together. Some were tall and had wings. Some were small and had many eyes. Some were made of energy. Some were mechanical. But they all understood one thing. They all understood what it meant to be free. In the weeks and months that followed, the new Confederation began its work. Lisa Hunt was put in charge of a project to recover and restore ancient technologies that had been lost during the era. Teams of scientists from dozens of worlds worked together, sharing knowledge freely. They discovered things that changed how beings understood the universe. Humans began to train alongside members of other species. Young human warriors learned ancient fighting techniques from the human scientists learned physics from the human artists learned music from the and beings from other species learned from humans. They learned human resilience. They learned human creativity. They learned human compassion. Spent her time training a new generation of diplomats and leaders. She taught them the history of the old Confederation. She taught them the principles of freedom and justice. She taught them that strength was not about the size of your army or the power of your weapons. Strength was about the beliefs you held and the choices you made. 2 years after the liberation of Minor, and stood on a platform above the ocean of a water world. The water was clear and blue, and it reflected the light of the sun. In the distance, young beings from a dozen different species were learning to work together on a restoration project. They were rebuilding a city that had been destroyed during the era. Do you regret it? Asked. Becoming involved in all of this, you could have chosen to live quietly. You could have chosen to rest after so many years in chains. It was quiet for a long moment. Every day I spent in chains, I had a choice. I could have become bitter and angry. I could have waited for revenge, but I chose hope instead. I chose to believe that one day someone would give me freedom. And when you did, I understood that my suffering had a purpose. It taught me that freedom is precious. It taught me that beings are capable of great kindness. It taught me that change is possible. So no, I do not regret it. My life has meaning now. Everything that I endured has become part of something larger. Reached out and took her clawed hand. Thank you for trusting me, he said. Thank you for choosing to believe that humans could be more than we seemed. Thank you for proving me right, replied. The sun set over the water world, painting the sky with colors of orange and pink and purple. Young humans and beings from other species continued their work below, unaware that their future was being shaped by the choices of those who had come before them. They were building a civilization based not on fear or control, but on cooperation and trust. In the years that would follow, the new Confederation would face many challenges. There would be species that refused to join. There would be conflicts that seemed impossible to resolve. There would be beings who missed the certainty of the era, even though they had been oppressed by it. The work of building something new would never truly be finished. But the galaxy had been given a chance to choose a different path, a chance to embrace freedom and truth, a chance to become something greater than what it had been before. And it had all started with one human captain who saw a prisoner in chains and chose to help. One small act of kindness had transformed the entire galactic civilization. It was a lesson that would echo through history. Sometimes the smallest choices matter most. Sometimes the youngest voices have the most important things to say. Sometimes a single being acting with integrity and courage can change everything. watched the sunset with beside him. He thought about the journey that had brought him here. He thought about the girl who had been in chains. He thought about the billions of beings who were now choosing their own futures. He thought about the future that was being built, not by powerful governments or ancient species, but by ordinary beings who believed that freedom and justice were worth fighting for. The age of control and lies was over. The age of freedom and truth had begun, and it would never be the same again. "We have won," said. "No," said. "We have ended the war, but now comes the harder part. Now comes the building of something new, and that will take longer and be more difficult than any battle." Understood, the truth had been revealed, the lies had been exposed, but truth alone did not solve problems. The galaxy still had to figure out how to live together. It still had to learn how to trust. It still had to build a civilization based on justice and freedom instead of control and fear. The battle was over. The real work was just beginning. The message had spread. The truth was out. Now came the most difficult part. Now came the fight to make the truth mean something. "Your species may be young," she said, "but you have something they have lost. You have integrity. You have the ability to do what is right instead of what is safe. This is why I chose to trust you." That night, as the ship continued its journey home, sat alone in his quarters. He transmitted a message to Earth's government. He told them everything. He told them about the Confederation. He told them about the lies they had been told. He did not know what would happen next, but he knew one thing. The galaxy was about to change, and it was beginning with one human captain and one dragon woman who refused to stay silent. He did not know then what this decision would cost. He did not know that freeing this woman would set off events that would change the entire galaxy. He only knew that the right thing had been done, and sometimes the right thing is the only thing that matters.